This is Twit.
The new watch is big and square. This is from Mark Gurman. 41 millimeters. The watches will, again, rumor. We don't know. We'll find out Tuesday. Watches will be marketed as 41 millimeters and 45 millimeters, which is one little millimeter bigger. But that's the vertical dimensions. So it's actually a more significant size increase, right?
Yeah, particularly when you're putting it on your wrist, and at those dimensions, that could be a turnoff for a lot of people. I don't think it's not enough of a turnoff that people would stop buying Apple Watches, but it might get them to buy the smaller watch instead of the larger watch anymore.
Bigger watch means bigger battery.
Yeah,
it also means more on you could do more on the face. There'll be a new modular Max face, according to Gurman. He's so specific that I have to think this is accurate, right? Nobody's going to say, oh, and Mark, it's going to be called Modular Max. It'll show the time digitally alongside one small complication showing information like the day of the week, outside temperature, or quick access to an app with larger complications that span the length of the screen stacked on top of each other below. There's basically it's Infograph Modular, which I use because I want to get as much on the face as I can. A face dubbed Continuum will change based on the flow of time.
Like, wow, man.
Wow, man. A world time watch face called Atlas and World Timer internally will let a user see all 24 time zones at the same time.
You do not have that much going on in your life, sir or madam.
I know exactly what time it is in Tuvalu. And
I travel
you would
a
like
lot.
that.
I rarely need more than 3.
Yeah, 24 is a lot. Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah.
An external dial shows the time zones. The inner dial shows the time in each location. Users will be able to choose to see the time in either digital or analog. This is apparently, according to Gurman, copying watch faces popularized by Patek Philippe, Breitling, and Vacheron Constantin. Apple's also working on new faces for its Hermes and Nike. Boy, they're really making me pronounce some words these days. And Nike-branded Apple Watches. The Hermes version has numbers that change hour by hour, while a new Nike face features numbers that move based on a person's motion. Oh, just what I want. Wait a minute. Hold still. This is only the second time in the history of the Apple Watch the company has bumped up the screen size. We did it in 2018. I get the biggest they have. In fact, I got a 46 millimeter watch face for the Samsung. I want big.
I go bigger. They could have 4 or 5 millimeters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the screen is taking up more percentage of the actual face of the watch.
Right.
It's one of the brilliant design aspects of the Apple Watch in the beginning is that you have no idea how big the actual screen is because it just melts into the case itself. But it's a little bit of once again the disease where it's like, oh my God, this bezel is not as thin as we can possibly make it. We must make it. We don't want people to throw up when they see our screen. We have to make those bezels as tiny as possible. Still affects watches.
New models will feature a faster processor, of course. Case will have flatter edges. The renders I've seen, it really looks like almost like a box. The new screen is designed with a new lamination technique, says Gurman, that brings the display closer to the cover glass. That, among other issues, and you mentioned this, Andy, has led to production hiccups that could either delay the ship date of the Series 7 or result in supply shortages at launch.
I also read a rumor somewhere that I don't know if I believe this, but it's interesting that the new line of watches might have a change to the design of the band that might require a new type of band.
That's going to cost Renee.
Don't know if I believe that because they've got so much money invested into that whole ecosystem. But that would be an interesting move. It more than anything else, it made me think about if they haven't sort of done themselves a dirty deed by having such a popular and lucrative band market that, my God, we really want to change the shape of things a little bit, but we can't because we can't change. There are things we can't change without making this incompatible with previous generations of watch bands. And would they be willing to create a new generation or a new class of watch bands? What would be so important in terms of hardware design or in terms of just fashion design that they would want to introduce like a bifurcation like that?
I have to admit, I played around with a lot of watch bands, and now I'm just using the sports watch band that came with it. I went all over the place, and I bought all these watch bands, and I was just like, oh, this one's
Do you think Apple would make a proprietary connector? I mean, they've got to be looking at all the money they're losing to third-party watch bands. I mean, this one from, I forgot, was it Nomad? This leather band is not an Apple. Apple made no money on it because they didn't patent the you think they might go proprietary?
What would they win?
Money.
I really. Well, no, but
forget they're in the business.
They make peanuts on. I would think that one of the smartest things about having that design kind of open is knowing that they're not going to be able to figure out every single style that everybody wants, and to get them to buy the next $250 to $500 or $600 watch means that if someone wants to go out with a diamond-studded Michael Kors watch band, they can get that, and they don't have to worry about Michael Kors not necessarily wanting to do a deal with Apple in order to make that happen.
This is Pat and Quill. I just looked. So.
And one thing that does surprise me is that I'm still surprised that certain like high-end watchmakers like Omega, like Philippe Petit, like aren't allowed to. We will let you make an Omega Seamaster watch face, because there are people that they're probably not going to have like $20,000 to buy a Rolex Seamaster, but if they might have $40 or $30 to spend getting what is obviously not the real thing, but a very, very good knockoff, a perfect approximation, and maybe that gets you sort of primed the pump to wanting to have an actual Omega, wanting to get an actual Rolex. I'm still surprised overall that Apple doesn't have any sort of mechanism for third parties to simply decide to build their own watch faces and make it happen, because maybe the justification for that is that they want to control the software experience of it because they're Apple, and that's the part that makes the Apple Watch. But nonetheless, I think that given that they've already made these deals with Hermes, saying, okay, we will let you do that, we will let Nike, we will let you do that. It seems like an opportunity for some partnerships that would elevate the brand even further from, hey, here's a really expensive and cool fitness watch, to here is like an entry-level, sophisticated, hey, I'm a weekend yachtsman style timepiece.